the weekly show with David J. Maloney.
This week, David chats with the legendary duo, the Bellamy Brothers.
And now, here's your host, David J. Maloney.
Welcome, everyone, to the weekly show. I'm your host, David J. Maloney. On tonight's show, we've got the next part of my interview with David and Howard Bellamy. It could be argued that there is no more successful country music duo than the Bellamy Brothers, whom have been responsible for such mega hits as If I Said You Had a Beautiful Body, Would You Hold It Against Me? And Let Your Love Flow, which has been consistently voted by trade magazines as one of the top 100 songs of the 1900s. Back again to chat more about their incredible careers is none other than country music's the Bellamy Brothers. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. This is the weird or tough question. So what do you think makes a song a quote unquote country song, which is probably the genre most people now associate you guys with? Is it rhythm, instruments used, lyrics? I mean, everybody has their own opinions. I'm curious as to, you know, when you guys are writing something, do you guys go, oh, this is a country song, this is this? Does it make a difference? And if so, what do you think that difference is?
We don't really even think of what it is country, or because we kind of have a built-in sound, you know.
Yeah, most people just say now it's just a Bellamy Brothers song.
Yeah, and I mean they've accepted that from us.
Yeah,
as far as our genre, you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's but yeah, we don't think much about genre, and I mean, and when I hear a song on the radio I don't think much about it. Whatever it is, I just like it, you know, or don't like it.
That makes sense. So a little while later, you guys would write and record Old Hippie on your Howard and David album. To me, it makes sense to think that you both had a bit of that spirit, just like you said at the beginning of the show. Where did the idea for that album come about?
That song, Old Hippie, was what I would usually call just a composite character, because it included ourselves, but it also included, you know, guys we grew up with, you know, that went to Vietnam after high school and you know, just kind of live that life. That song was about, you know, people like sort of on our generation sort of turning middle aged and not really adjusting to some of the changes as well as, you know, they should like ourselves.
Still adjusting.
How much of the, let's just use the phrase hippie music of the 60s and 70s had an influence on the type of music that you guys wrote? Or who are your biggest influences?
Okay. Well, I don't know. Joni Mitchell is one of our favorite songwriters of all time. Big Joni fans, you know, all the great writers. The source of the music is kind of where we've always gone.
Yeah, writers, songwriters, you know, Dylan and Neil Young and Carter still in there. And yeah, all those guys. We liked all that folk rock and, you know, all that stuff. And, you know, we've been fortunate over the years, you know, to get to meet some of those guys. Neil Young was actually a fan of Old Hippie. He had us on all these shows. Yeah, he invited us out to come play a show with him because he was a fan of it. And Dylan was actually a fan of Old Hippie too.
Did anyone else in your family have kind of that hippie spirit, or were you guys some kind of the outliers in your family?
No, we pretty much started the hippie spirit in our family, yeah. Because, you know, of the time, you know, there really weren't, well, before us, it was too early for hippies, and but it came along during our time. You know, I was born shortly after Dad got back from the war, and so they put me in the early part of the era, and I was a little before the hippie era, but I quickly adjusted into it when I compared that against drinking, running out with the rednecks. You know, I preferred the hippies a lot more. Good conversation, you know, just no hangovers. But we sort of got to see the rednecks sort of become hippies. And yeah, we did. We saw merge.
Some of the hippies become redneck. You know, it's got them. Yeah, the melting pot there.
Well, and I was going to say, some of your music, much of your music even, has found even more life, I guess, as line dance music. And I suspect that's because your music has kind of what you guys said earlier, kind of the Bellamy Brothers sound or Bellamy Brothers, dare I say, groove to it. Um, uh, and I'm presuming that's because the songs kind of all have this, kind of groovy sensibility.
Yeah, well, groove and feel are probably one of the most important to us. That's as important as the song and the lyrics are, because well, they're all equal. There's groove, melody, and lyric. And if you've got good of all three, you're pretty much gonna do all right. That's the trick, combining those three. Beautiful Body is interesting, and it had a bit of comedy in it as well. But it was a very, very pretty melody. So it was a combination of very, very weird things. It was a love song with a novel title, basically.
Well, speaking of Beautiful Body, you guys later recorded that with Dolly Parton in the 2000s. How did that collaboration come about? I mean, I'm guessing at that point you probably had already met and knew her already. Am I wrong now?
We toured with Dolly, quite a few times over the years. Yeah, so we were doing that Angels and Outlaws project with quite a few different artists, and we called Dolly up, and that was one of the greatest days because she came to the studio. She was with us for a couple of 3 hours in the studio. That was a hoot. I mean, it was just listening to her sing and telling road stories, and it's just hysterical.
She is a fantastic storyteller, not just musically, but just.
Dolly's a real deal. She's just like she is. That's the thing.
That is so cool to know. So the dilemma for me here is there's countless albums and hits we could discuss from here because you guys have had so many. But what I wanted to ask you instead, kind of to tie some of this together, is there any common thread or common calculus you can see to which songs will be hits and which ones won't? You mentioned some ingredients a few moments ago. Is there any ingredients that we skipped over that are kind of, in the hook, or something else that you feel is a necessary ingredient when you guys are producing or writing a song? Oh, well, we have to have this ingredient or that ingredient to know that it's going to be a hit.
Well, nowadays, I think a lot of that's changed because I don't really even know what a hit is anymore because the way things are. I mean, I'm still hung up. I can't figure out why it takes 5 people to write a song, but because nowadays you see the songwriters listed and it looks like a law firm, but it's hard to. But from our era, we kind of knew it wasn't so much a formula, but we knew the ingredients. It was like baking a cake or making a delicious dish. You had to add those ingredients for it to, the Bellamy Brothers can sing that, just like Let Your Love Flow. When you hear it, we could sing that. We did have an ingredient on a song we did called Reggae Cowboy that I don't think on any other album that I've ever heard is a gas can.
When you guys go into writing, is it a more linear process where it goes in a certain order, or is it bits and pieces and you put them together? What is or does it change based on the song?
It changes. It's kind of all of the above. And even sequencing of an album anymore is not as crucial as it used to be because
there's no such thing. It's just sequencing now.
Yeah, it just comes out on the internet. It can be a one song download, or it can be a EP, or it's things are just really different now. So you have to approach them kind of different.
Now, you were talking about Beautiful Body and how the title of that song came from a Groucho Marx bit or joke. And then we talked about Let Your Love Flow, and it seems like you get ideas for different songs from different places. How many of your songs have been based on like real life experiences or conversations for both of you? Is there one that's like a prime example?
I think David written a song called Sugar Daddy. And he heard a conversation in Knoxville, Tennessee. I remember when this somewhat of a of a couple that was having a conversation. Yeah, there was a guy and his I guess wife or girlfriend, I don't know, but they're trying to fix her car outside a hotel room, and they got the hood up, and he's kind of underneath the hood like a shade tree mechanic. And he says to her, he says, what you gonna need is a new car. And she goes, no, what I need is a sugar debt. And so that's, sometimes things like that will just trigger you and say, oh yeah, that would be a good song. So,
You're like, I got to write that down right now before I forget about it. It's like you're in a restaurant, somebody says something and you go, I got to write that on a napkin right now.
How about a few napkin songs?
Do you guys have any like dark horse tracks that no one really knows about that are based on like a real life story that are individual to you guys, not something you saw outward?
Well, yeah, there's a lot of stuff, that are, we've got a pretty big, extensive catalog, and a lot of songs that are in there that I think should have been. We've got a song called Guardian Angel that I wrote. In fact, Willie cut it with us on that same album that Dolly was on, and I thought would have been a good song for radio at that time, but couldn't get the label. Again, the label couldn't get them to release it. But there's several songs that we have. We actually recorded "Sweet Caroline" with Neil Diamond, and we have that recording. We can't do anything. Yes. Yeah. And Neil sent us a handwritten note on how sorry he was, and they wouldn't let us put it out. But the label wouldn't let us put it out. They won't let him or us put it out.
Is that something that you think is forever? Or do you think, because right now, Neil's having quite the resurgence. They got a Broadway play. They got all this other stuff.
Yeah, that's the thing. We might hit him up again.
We might hit him up. Yeah, we've got several duet. We got a duet with Chaka Khan. Pecan we have. They're working
with who?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So, and he's, my understanding is he's got some health issues. So it's one of those things where if you're going to do it.
Yeah, they're going to do a Broadway. They're doing a Broadway musical based on his songs. So
yeah,
they got
exactly.
So, hopefully we can get it out.
Now would be, it seems like it's ripe for the picking again, maybe.
Yeah. Yep.
So, speaking of songs that you've gotten from other people, how can you guys tell, or how do you guys pick these mega hits out of a lineup when they're written by somebody else? Do you guys just have a nose for it? Or is it, like you said, because you can automatically feel each of you and go, I know, you don't even have to assign each other parts, you just know where you'd fit?
Yeah, more or less, we did a song called "Do Your Love As Good As You Look," and somebody actually mailed it to us. It was a reel-to-reel tape, and we heard it, and that was it. It was perfect.
You don't get many of them, but once in a while.
So looking back at your career, did you guys ever wind up playing the kind of music you thought you would when you started? Or have you tried all the sounds you wanted to try, or are there more things you guys want to go, you know what, I kind of want to try this?
Well, you always want to try something, there's always curiosity about doing certain things, but a lot of times it comes out sounding like you sound, it sounds like the stuff you would write. It sounds like stuff you would sing. And so I'm not sure you could probably take any style of music and do it, and it would have some of the elements, that would sound like the Bellamy Brothers.
We talked about you guys working together well as brothers, and it seems as if obviously you guys are on the same page on a lot of things. I kind of want to ask, what would you say have been the greatest differences between the two of you when it comes to music? What do you think each of you uniquely bring to the table to complement each other? What are those differences, would you say?
Well, I think there's a built-in blend, and we sound similar in voice, but tone-wise it's different, and the harmonies, I sing a lot of the harmonies. They does mostly, because that's kind of what we built our sound on, built our sound with an acoustic bass, usually with something right with.
we put percussion, even since Body, we always put percussion on songs, even early country songs.
Yeah, a lot of country.
That's why people dance to
A
this.
lot of country
Acts never used percussion, but we always loved, we grew up near the Caribbean. Percussion was a natural thing for us to hear, and so we used it from way back when.
And the other question on a brotherly aspect, how is it you guys haven't gotten tired of each other yet after all?
Oh, we're tired of each other. We can't afford.
So, to wrap us up, I'd be remiss first if I didn't ask, how did your collaboration with DJ Otzi come about? Because if you look up your music on Spotify, your collaborations with him have really stormed up the streaming charts, and
Not only
probably,
that,
it probably brought your music to countless new people.
Yeah, it did. And there's a lot of, they just put out this European football album, and they included our version of Hey Baby with DJ Otzi. Then they play it in football stadiums in Europe, and in soccer stadiums. And we did an album with the fella in Switzerland, which we're going to see soon, called Zola. And they were trying to get us to do this. And we didn't know him that well. We met him, actually became really good friends with him. We cut a project together, sort of. He cut there, we cut here, and then he came over to finish up here, and the thing went double platinum, and we got to be really good friends with him. He come and stayed with us at the ranch. He's really great. So then the label goes, well, we need to do this over here with DJ Otzi. We didn't even have a clue who DJ Otzi was. So Howard and I went to Berlin, recorded the album, and he came in and did most of his things. So we did a few TV shows together, but we really didn't never get to know DJ Otzi that much. And so it was a really different project, because the Gola project kind of started it all. But we run into a lot of crazy stuff while out there, but a lot of it's been good, and a lot of it's been very successful.
Well, I think it's cool that you guys are open-minded enough to do some of those things, because there are a lot of people who may be set a little bit in their ways, or may not want to have that level of crossover in that way, or have their music associated in a certain way. And I just think that's wonderful. And like I said, it breathes a whole new air of life into, some of these fantastic vintage songs.
Well, we've been going to Europe since 75, and we were entrenched in that scene for a lot. We practically lived there, because so we understand that kind of whole music mentality they have there, but Europe is a fantastic music audience. They love country. They love all sorts of stuff.
Now, let's talk about, you were talking about touring. Let's talk about your current tour schedule, because you guys are touring all over the place this year. What kind of stuff can people expect when they come see you guys this year?
It's because most everybody just wants to hear all the hits. So, we do play some new music as well, but we play a lot of hits, so we try to get it, and inevitably we leave out something somebody wanted to hear, because you just can't help it. But we try to do as many hits for the folks as we can.
And you guys, your website is BellamyBrothers.com. Are you guys on all the different social medias too?
We are.
Okay, so where can folks find you on the various socials?
Well, Facebook, Twitter. Well, that's X now, actually. And Instagram, all those good things. You can just look up Bellamy Brothers, and there we are. And our YouTube channel as well. We've got a lot of new stuff on there. Our new gospel duet with the Isaacs is on there. We did a classic country duet with Gene Watson on there recently. A lot of new videos. So there's plenty of Bellamy Brothers out there.
You know what? There's a question that I probably should have asked earlier, but you mentioned some of these names. Is there anybody that you've ever wanted to collaborate with that you haven't had a chance to, that you would love the opportunity still to do a duet or do some collaboration with?
We wanted to. We recorded with Haggard, and when we did our Angels and Outlaws, when Dolly was on and all the people were on, but he had a rub with the record label, and we had a rub with him too. Understood his rub. But
Yeah, Haggard was really.
I can tell you what Haggard said, but better not.
I presume it's quintessential Haggard. Well, David and Howard, thank you so much for joining us today. I mean, it's been an absolute pleasure.
All right, our pleasure, man.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Bellamy Brothers. That is our show for tonight. Thank you so much for watching, and a special thanks to the Bellamy Brothers for joining us. Stay safe, everyone.